All right, so I'm gonna watch this clip from Triggernometry and comment on it about free will. I've not heard it before, but someone brought it up to me, and I'm really interested in the philosophical conversation. So I'm going to play this, and then we'll talk about it.
Do you believe in free will? Do you believe that we have free will?
As Christopher Hitchens said, I have no choice.
That's a good one.
Christopher Hitchens was very good at avoiding answering the question in that way.
I just avoided it. I hate that question. I think I'm persuaded by people that I've read that free will is an illusion, but it's a very, very powerful illusion. And we all feel as if we've got free will.
So
I disagree.
You believe that the question I'm asking you now and the answer you're giving me now is predetermined?
I'm afraid I do, and I find that very hard to stomach, but yes.
Well, it is the logical conclusion of your beliefs.
I think it is,
that
yes.
view, necessarily. So do you think that... I guess here's a question, and I don't mean it as some kind of gotcha, but do you think that to believe that people have free will is unscientific?
No, not necessarily.
Can we speed this up?
Well, the Heisenberg's indeterminacy principle that there is.
We do have free will.
I'm sure all our viewers are very familiar with it, Richard.
I can explain it.
Well, I'm not, because I'm not a physicist.
Yeah. Nor are they, is my point.
No, I know, but
You're going to have to explain this in simple language.
No, I can't explain. I'm not a physicist, and I'm not sure even they can. It's a very difficult thing. Well, you probably heard the sort of joke of Schrodinger's cat.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you have a cat and a mechanism which is triggered by a radioactive
decay
emission, so either the cat is dead or not.
All right. Okay, guys. I talk really fast. I move too fast for these things. No wonder people like to play podcasts on 2x speed. No offense, Triggernometry is fantastic, but Richard, come on, speed it up. All right, Schrodinger's cat. You got a cat in a box. There is a vial of poison. The poison will be released, killing the cat, if a sensor detects radioactive decay. The question is that when we track the position of an electron, it is either a wave or a particle, depending on how we track it. And so the simple version is we view... I believe this is related to the Heisenberg uncertainty principle, that we don't know the point at which wave function collapses, that an electron goes from a wave to a single point or a particle. And that so long as we aren't measuring this phenomenon, the electron is in a superposition of all states, and thus the cat at the macro level would be theoretically both alive and dead at the same time until you observe to determine whether or not the decay occurred, and then the animal died. I think that perfectly explains that we have free will. I mean, it's actually a brilliant way to explain that we have free will. We can map out we can look at things and see relatively deterministic outcomes, but there is a degree of chaos that exists within all things. Thus, while what we do is largely predetermined, fact, there is a component of all of us that is free will. There's a lot of ideas around this. Now that I've explained probably more quickly Schrodinger's cat, let's play this and see what his argument is, but then I will give you my thoughts on the matter.
Dead. And according to one interpretation of quantum theory, because of the indeterminacy principle, the cat is neither alive nor dead until you open the box and look at it. And Schrödinger posited this thought experiment as a way of saying how absurd the Copenhagen interpretation of quantum theory actually is. Because surely with common sense says the cat must be alive or dead. And these are profound, deep waters which I am not qualified to wade in.
I guess as a very prominent biologist, though, I think the reason I'm asking you about free will is having read your work extensively and now having asked you the question, it seems to me that it inevitably follows from the system of beliefs that you have that, as you concede, free will can't exist, right?
Certainly I can.
So the reason I asked you whether it's unscientific is not because I was trying to get you to say something provocative or dogmatic. I'm just trying to understand how human beings might have free will within, the conventional scientific understanding of human realities and evolution and so on.
Yes, to say that something is unscientific is a pejorative which I wouldn't wish to go into. My private suspicion is that we don't have free will, but I wouldn't wish to condemn somebody who thought the opposite.
I don't think he's making a coherent argument in any sense of the imagination. And I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm chugging this Vault energy drink, but I kind of feel like this is the most underwhelming thing I've listened to in terms of an argument about free will. Let me show you this. This is 7 years ago, a GIF that I saw back then, and I love it. I feel that this represents a lot of the arguments in physics about perhaps Heisenberg uncertainty, Schrodinger's cat, and free will, etc. So this is, for those that are watching, it says, here's what's happening in Horizon Zero Dawn every time you move the camera. And the image being displayed shows that the terrain of the world disappears and reappears only when the character, the player character, is observing it. Many people believe this is how reality functions. So, again, to describe what this GIF is, you are looking at a terrain landscape in a video game where it's mostly wilderness. As the character camera view pans left, you can see this pyramid-like structure, which is the shape of your screen, pans left and right. The world generates in real time and degenerates when you're not looking at it. This is kind of like the Heisenberg uncertainty principle. When we're not observing wave function of an electron, and this is what scientists think. I've read books. I don't know. Like, I've never actually looked at an electron microscope. When you measure, you get a particle. But we don't know the point at which wave function, the wave of an electron, collapses into a single point. I think this kind of exemplifies it in a way that we can understand. Now, some may say, you look at this from Horizon Zero Dawn, a video game, and you see the world collapsing and reappearing as the player looks upon it. And they may be thinking, wow, we're in a video game. The world is built as such that the act of observation manifests reality around us, and thus our perception of events, our observation, can manifest reality. That's kind of the hippie New Age way of looking at it. Simulism, they call it. Another way to look at it is not that we can influence reality by observing it, but that reality wave function collapses into existence upon our observation that we cannot control. That is to say, when the character in Horizon Zero Dawn pans the camera left and the reality manifests itself for the first time as you're about to look at it, you can't decide the rock will or won't be there, or will or won't be a different shape. The rock will always emerge upon observation. It will always be the same. Nothing else will change that. The only thing that you can actually do is enemies respawn. You look in one area, you take down the horse robot, because that's the game, and then you turn around, turn back, and the horse robot has returned. But for the most part, reality will not change based on your observation. It either exists or doesn't based on your observation. I think the reality is much simpler. Not that we live in a simulation, this proves it, but that we exist within a system of rules. We can simulate those rules on a smaller scale. That's what a video game does. Video games are built using the rules of the universe that we exist in to create a smaller version of what is. The fascinating thing is that we make a video game, and then people think video games are representations of what the universe is. The universe must be a video game. No, the universe is a grand construct. Within it, we have taken within the rules of the grand construct to create a smaller version that is wholly inadequate compared to the greater, and we have assigned rules to it. That is to say, just because video games function this way does not mean the universe we exist in is a video game or simulation. That's silly. It's reductive thinking. I think it's more important to realize that the video game character, the best analogy we can make, is so oblivious to the greater reality beyond it, and it will never be able to comprehend. There is no reality in which you will tell Aloy, the character in Horizon Zero Dawn, that she's in a video game and her world only constructs when she looks at it. You can't do it. So then, for this reality that we're in, a greater and more pronounced structure, probably the closest thing we have is there's not going to be, at least to the best of our assumptions, someone intervening and telling us what we can or can't do. That being said, in this video game, you freely move your character about and you can have her run and jump off a cliff if you want. That's your choice. It is free will. The argument is that we are all non-player characters. To say that we don't have free will is to argue that all functions of the universe are guaranteed. I don't believe that's correct. My understanding, reading about quantum physics, and I'll put it this way, humans are fallible and quite. We may be very, very wrong about how physics works, and we're probably completely wrong because we're currently mapping it out. We don't know for sure. Based on what we think we know now, we find that sometimes electrons and particles behave rather oddly in an unpredictable fashion, and we don't yet know why. Now, it could be that the code of the universe, the rules that structure reality in which we exist, determine that there is still going to be some confine to how when particles collapse and how they function and what they do. Perhaps there is just 80% static, 20% variable. The variables will still be defined within a predetermined context. If that is the case, then we don't really have free will. I actually think there's just probably more likely to be a random number generator, an oversimplification of it, which gives us to a great degree an element of free will within certain confines. Some people deviate well beyond what is rational and sane, and they'd be forced to do, and some don't. It is rare that people deviate in such extreme ways. But ultimately what I see is this. We do have free will. For most of us, it's completely constrained. That is to say, Mark Zuckerberg, he's going to do exactly what he has to do, and it's predictable. Someone comes to him and says, actually, I think the seat of governance is a really great example of this. Someone goes to Donald Trump and says, here's the intelligence that we have. Actually, Trump's probably not a good example because he's an example of free will. Barack Obama. He's like, I'm going to get in. I'm going to end these wars. I'm going to get us healthcare. I'm going to do these things. You vote for me. We're going to save this country. And then you vote for him. And then he blows up a bunch of kids. And you're like, why did you do it? Because people are victims of circumstance. And they can only move within certain boundaries. Donald Trump deviates from this. He's a wild card. Barack Obama sits down at the Resolute desk and he says, now that I'm president, we're going to make sure we're getting our troops back. And we're not going to be expecting this war. And then the guy from the intelligence agency says, here's a folder, open it. And this is not the JFK joke. No, he opens it and he sees, holy crap. China's already moving in. Russia's advancing. They've got strategic, military batteries and missiles ready. They're ready to invade and take this land. We withdraw now. They take it. Region destabilizes. We lose control. Here's the cascade failure. Barack Obama has a choice. He says, I can keep my promise that I made before I knew this, or I can accept that I'm going to just fall in line with this. Nobody wants to be the disruptive force. So Obama just says, all right, make it happen. Because it's not that he's the leader and in control. It's that the office controls you. I think it's really simple. I mean, you get put into a forklift. You can only do so much with it. What are you going to do? You're going to dig a bunch of random holes, or are you going to move the object you're supposed to move from point A to point B? You could. You could choose your free will. You really could, but people mostly do not do it because we're looking at incentive structures. Will the actions that I take result in a benefit? Some people deviate. For Donald Trump, I imagine what happens is he sits down and he says, we're getting our troops out. I said we're not doing it, so bring our troops back, and that's my order. And they say, Mr. President, take a look at this. And he looks at it and he goes, I see. Looks pretty bad. Do what I said. And they're like, whoa, you're deviating. You can't do that. It'll have a cascade failure effect. Doesn't matter. Trump said no. And that's ultimately where you end up. Free will does exist, but most people don't want to exercise it. They want to go with the flow, take the path of least resistance, but it certainly does exist. Now, the greater idea and the possibility that it doesn't is that every electron function in your brain is predetermined, like dominoes falling over. And what we're really looking at is time doesn't exist. We are one storyline, pre-programmed from point A to point B, and nothing will ever change that. Nah, I don't believe that's true. I don't believe it's true. I believe it's just mostly true. I believe that for the most part, we have the ability to exercise free will. That is, the collection of ideas in our mind and our willingness to either deviate or follow the path of instruction. It exists. But we just don't want to. We don't want to deviate. Why don't I quit doing this show? Quit the morning show, quit the nightly show. You know, it's funny. I'm watching the news this morning, and I see a guy speaking, and what's he doing? You know, I'm like, what does that guy do all day? Most people, they do very, very, very little work, and they live well. Me, I live well, but I work all day, every day, nonstop. I'm in the office basically 24/7. In the office for the morning show, then I exercise. We film the skating. That's my exercise. We film that to make clips, and then I do the nightly show. And I think to myself, I could shut it all down right now, and I could just go relax and do literally anything. Why don't I? I don't want to. I don't know. I have that free will. I could make that choice, but I don't want to. I'm going along this path. This is the path that I feel compelled to be on. I think that I have a responsibility. I have a duty, and I have to do this. I have fears and concerns about what it means if I stop doing it. What does that mean for the people who work here? What do they need? So I keep going. I just keep doing this one thing. To be fair, I enjoy it. It's not a hard job to talk about philosophy randomly in the middle of my own show, make a segment about it. But that's the reality. Do you really want to deviate? You could. Do you want to? There are hard choices in life. You want to know where free will exists? Let me tell you. A roulette table. Okay? Here's what you do. You put $5 down. Well, I don't know what the table minimum is going to be. You put $15 down on 26 black. The dealer spins that ball. And then you're thinking, oh, is it going to be 26 or 28? What do I do? Make a choice. Some people switch their bets. That's free will. That's the moment where you don't know where it matters. You don't know what to do. You don't know what the right bet is. The ball's spinning. You got seconds to answer, and you have that choice. Up or down, yes or no, left or right. In most life, you're not going to quit your job. Your family needs you. You've got a duty and a responsibility. You march in that line. But every so often, you make the choice. You deviate. And then when we see that replicated across the spectrum. So anyway, somebody asked me to talk about it. So there you go. I did. Let's get back to talking about the news, my friends, and we'll jump to this segment I was going to talk about with Tulsi Gabbard. For this segment, I'll just say thanks for hanging out, everybody. It's a special bonus segment because someone asked for it, and I'm allowed to. Let me wrap up by saying this. I could stick to just doing news. I could not deviate from the show to talk about free will, but in so doing, I have changed the format of my show, extended the amount of time I have to work, because I chose to do it. Why? Does it benefit me? I don't know. I think some people probably don't want to watch it. Some people don't care about philosophical conversations about free will, but I can choose to do whatever I want. There you go. Free will exists. Thanks for hanging out. Smash the like button, subscribe to the channel. This is probably going to air on Friday or whatever. I don't know. Let's talk about the news.